Cool. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, guys. So this is, I think, maybe is it course session five, I think, of our
Yeah.
five or six of our accountability calls. So um, for for the guys that uh, don't know us, we've been property investors since 2018, investing in Sheffield. One of the things we did along the way was we created Property Pipeline, which was a tool that we've used now for the last 4 or 5 years to help us kind of systemize our business. But done a bunch of other stuff in property. I'll skip over that and get straight into what I wanted to talk about today, which was just really some. So, on the previous calls, we've kind of gone through tips on using Property Pipeline and general tips in property. On this one, I want to talk about something that I find really useful around looking at the price per square foot or square meter of a property. And it helping you with decisions around whether that's an area where it's worth adding value through an extension and that kind of stuff, or whether the price in the area is so low that it's not worth doing that. And also whether the price of a property, when you're struggling to find comparables, is that about right? It's not the perfect answer, but it's another little kind of little easy calculation that you can do to work out, as I said, whether an extension is maybe worth doing and whether a property is
Mm.
kind of the right sort of price for the done-ups in the area. So I'll just take like an example property here on our demo system. So this is just a property found on Rightmove. It's a nice, very nicely done up property. That's a lovely kitchen. So this is going to be sort of top end price. So it's on for 450,000. So I want to kind of work out whether that's about right for this property. So, the first thing I'll do is I want to try and find out how big it is overall, like how much square foot or square meters has this property got. So sometimes that's on the floor plan. Fortunately, on this one it is, so it's 131 square meters. So all I'll do is just a really simple calculation, which is so the property's on for 450,000, and I'm just dividing that by 131 square meters to know that this is priced at about £3,400 per square meter for this property based on what they put it on the market for. When I'm checking that as well, what I just want to make sure is that they haven't been cheeky and done something like put the cellar or the garage into the total size of the property, because like an unconverted cellar is worthless. You shouldn't really count it into the usable space of the property, and a garage as well, especially if it's a garage not attached to the property, which you can see, I think, on this picture, it's at the back. Again, that garage doesn't hold much value to the property, in my opinion, in this kind of area and stuff like that. Because maybe if you're in London, the garage could be worth 100,000, 200,000 pounds, but Sheffield and stuff, no. So anyway, back to the quick calculation. So it was, like I said, it was the property value, 450,000, or the property price divided by the number of square meters. That gives us £3,400 per square meter for this property. So now, is that a right number for this property? So what I'll do is back on here, I'll go and have a look on my lookups and go to sold prices for this area and see if we can find something that I can kind of compare this to. So I want something with a picture and a picture of the inside. So this one, 138 Kemper Lane. Let's have a look at this one. That was on for 300 or sold for 360 about a year ago. So just quickly, it looks all right. Looks okay. Yeah, good standard-ish. Okay, so that's a property that has been maybe not quite as nice as the one I'm looking at, but I'm going to use it to now calculate again what is the square meterage for this property when it was sold. So I can see that it's on for 360,000, but I don't have a floor plan here or anything to work out how big it was. So I just mentally note down what the address was, 138 Hemper Lane, and it was on for 360. So go back to Property Pipeline, and now I'm going to look up the residential EPCs for this postcode. So I click on that, and it'll bring up the EPCs for that postcode. So I'm going to try and find, what was it, 130, 138. So click on 138 Hemper Lane to see the EPC for it, and that's got the size of the property in square meters. So even though that wasn't on the listing and stuff like that, I can still find it out just from the EPC for the property. So going back to do my sum again. Um, so this one was, I think it was on for 360,000 divided by the size 102. And I've got a price per square meter of about £3,500. So going back to my original sum, which was this one, I think. Um, that was the one that was on the market is on for slightly cheaper per square meter than this one that sold in December 2023. So kind of looking at that property on the market, it's probably about right then for the type of property, the quality and the size of it.
Mm.
So it's just useful feedback for me to then know, okay, that's about right. But also you could use this sort of information to go, actually, that property is really cheap for the area, because I've got a lot of space for less money. And that's when I think that can be great for like flips. That can be great for then adding extensions because if you add a 20-meter extension onto a property in this area, you could be adding 20 times that. So let's do 20 times that. You could be adding 60, 70,000 pounds of value to that property with a small extension. So I think those numbers are useful. Again, also going to look at lower cost areas. If you do the same sort of sums and you think about what it might cost to build an extension, which some people say about maybe 1,500 per square meter,
Mm.
as just a rough number. If your values are like this 3,500 per square meter, then it's worth building that extension. If your values per square meter in the area are more like half that or a quarter of that, then is it really worth sticking that extension on for just uplifting the value? So that's all I wanted to share for our kind of little tips today around how you can just do those simple sums to look at the values of properties and work out what things you might want to do with them. So have you guys got any questions on that?
No, I was going to share with you, which I can do just now, if you like. We use a program called Property Engine,
Yep.
um, which you may have heard of. Very nice guy, and it gives you all that information quite nicely when you click on a property, and it's all calculated and set out for you. So it's really nice to see. And I've been looking at that because when we did our commercial conversions to residential, whenever we looked at commercial property, I knew what a good deal was.
Mhm.
I knew we work per square foot as opposed to per square meter, it doesn't matter which one you use. But I knew that I could look at anything basically, and I could say that's a deal, that's not a deal, just working on the price per square foot. And
Yeah.
I haven't used it at all looking at the residential properties and the purchases the properties we're looking at now. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's it it's a lot more. There's a much greater fluctuation depending on the area that you're buying in. Then, because I'll give you an example. On the commercial side, we knew that anything around about £50 a square foot was a good buy, and
Okay.
that didn't matter whether it was Leeds, Manchester, Huddersfield, Halifax, kind of West Yorkshire. That you knew if you could get it for that price, you buy it,
Yeah.
and it was good. As you say, with the housing, you can go from, I've seen as low as 224 a square foot, and
Okay.
I've seen as high as 377, which is virtually, as you said earlier, it's virtually double.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I take like in our area, we've probably got I actually know a property on our street that's just been sold for 100,000, and that is probably about 75 square meters.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that's probably about 4 or 5 miles across Sheffield from the other property we looked at in the first example, kind of thing. So
Crazy, huh?
yeah, it's not it is crazy, isn't it? Like on the difference, yeah. But I think I'm glad you said about that, Chris, because I think it's a really useful kind of
Mm.
little calculators to use, and for even if people don't have things like Property Engine, just sort of showing them how they can just
Mm.
go and take those two bits of info and do the sum kind of quickly to help them
It,
work
it's
out those numbers, I think is
it is very useful. It really is. Yeah.